Sometimes the harmony of the world is revealed the moment the wind passes between the trees, and everything, for a moment, seem to breathe together. It's as if nature keeps an old secret, a secret that has always been there, but that only reveals itself when we are silent inside. Maybe you've already felt it, that brief second when the chaos of the days moves away and something invisible touches your chest, reminding you that there is an order smooth behind it all. Now imagine a narrow path in the middle of a humid forest. The light passes through leaves, forming small golden portals on the ground. The air doesn't press, it just surrounds, and each step seems to invite you to come back to yourself, to recognize that there is something that pulsates in sync with your own heart, a kind of silent complicity between you and the world. It is in this space, between the breath and the moment, that many perceive the natural harmony that has always accompanied them, even when life becomes too heavy, too fast, too much, too noisy. And if you feel like there's something invisible guiding your days, this video is for you. An invitation to return to the simple flow, a flow that doesn't require effort, just presence. Because although everyday life tries to convince us that everything depends on control, strength, and constancy, nature whispers the opposite. What remains is what knows how to dance with the world, not what tries to overcome it. Just as water goes around a stone without ceasing to be water, we too can find a lighter, more serene, more aligned path with who we really are. Today, let's walk through this inner landscape together, and perhaps realize that the harmony is not something to be achieved, but something to be remembered. And at the end of this journey, you will be able to recognize in your own daily life the same softness that vibrates in mountains, rivers, and the breeze that touches the dawn. There is a level of reality that is not revealed by the eyes, but by the way the world responds to our steps. Sometimes this response is as subtle as the rocking of a sheet. Other times it is a profound change in our own inner state, as if the life would remind us that everything is connected by silent threads. Natural harmony is not a distant concept. It is a pulse that runs through every gesture, every decision, every breathing. When we realize this, everyday life becomes less of a sequence of tasks and yet another dialogue with something bigger. Imagine a stream running through ancient stones. He doesn't force passage, just finds, turn after turn, the possible path. And yet it moves forward. No because dominates the terrain, but because he knows how to adapt to it. It is this gentle intelligence that sustains life, a movement that is not imposed but that transforms. So we can also move in the world. When we stop resisting what is inevitable, something in us aligns, as if a portal opened inward, revealing a calm that was never absent, just covered up. This harmony is also manifested in the way nature occupies its space. A tree does not compete with the wind, she dances with him. The mountain doesn't try to be bigger, it simply remains. The sun does not accelerate to rise, do your time. Nothing tries to be something other than what it is. And paradoxically, this is how everything stays in balance. When we look at this carefully, we realize that most of our anguish arises from the effort to control the uncontrollable, to sustain forms that already they do not serve us, to insist on paths that life has long stopped illuminating. Maybe true harmony is less about conquering and more about listening. Listen to the body when he asks for a break. Listen to the heart when it loses its rhythm. Listen to the silence when he is present. In many moments, the answer we are looking for is in strength, but in the humility of recognizing that we are part of a living tissue, which it sustains and guides us if we stop fighting against it. And if this idea resonates with you, it is a sign that something inside has already awakened, a memory old, like the echo of a voice that has been trying to reach your attention for a long time. The harmony invisible does not require effort to be perceived. It just demands a softer look, less hardened by the fast pace of modern life, because deep down, we are all looking for the same thing, an internal place where we can rest without losing direction, and that place begins to be found when we understand that the world does not demand perfection, it only demands presence. Nature never asks us to be more than we are, it just calls us back to the point where it all begins, the center silent of our own existence. There are moments when the world seems too heavy, as if every thought gathered dust inside us, and without even realizing it, we carry excess, memories that have already fulfilled their role, concerns that do not sustain anything, expectations that do not belong to our true rhythm. Nature, however, always remember that everything that lives needs space to breathe. A river doesn't always run crystal clear, but when the current decreases, the water clarifies on its own. So too happens inside us. Modern life has taught us to fill every minute, every sensation, every silence. But the purity, this purity that is not perfection, but rather a return to the essential, arises when we let the dust settle. Simplicity is the practice of removing what blocks the flow natural of the spirit. It is not absence, but purified presence. It is not escape, but return to that really matters. It is letting the heart be like a clean mirror, reflecting the world without distortions. Imagine the moment the rain starts. The first drops hit the ground with softness, and suddenly everything becomes more alive. The air is renewed, the earth breathes, the leaves shine. Purification happens so simply that it almost goes unnoticed. Within us, something similar can happen when we let go of some of what we accumulate. Unspoken words, pains that we insist on carrying, demands that no one really expected from us. Each detachment is like a drop that cleans what was cloudy. Simplicity makes the path lighter. It doesn't mean having fewer things, but having less noises. It means realizing that the essential has always been within reach. The way we breathe when we wake up, the way we listen to someone without rushing, the ability to feel time instead of chasing it. Simplicity is creating space for the spirit move without bumping into internal obstacles. And when this purity sets in, even if subtly, we begin to notice details previously invisible. The brightness of an ordinary morning, the comfort of a small gesture, the silence that rests between two notes of sound. Life stops being a pile of tasks and returns to be a continuous flow. And what seemed distant, balance, serenity, clarity, it becomes something we can touch. Purification is not a grand act. It is a silent process that takes place within who decides to look honestly at their own waters. When we accept that the excess only weighs us down and the essence always fluctuates, we rediscover a rare type of freedom. The freedom to be exactly who we are without unnecessary layers. And so, little by little, we realize that simplicity does not impoverish life. It makes it reveals. And deep down, perhaps this is what we were looking for from the beginning. A way of existing that breathed together with the world without friction, without urgency, without masks. Nature never stays the same. What blooms today rests tomorrow. What today is light, tomorrow he retires in the shade. The seasons don't ask if we're ready. They simply arrive. And yet, each one carries with it a purpose. To renew, mature, silence, be reborn. Impermanence is not an error in the structure of the world, is his way of keeping everything alive. When we understand this, we stop fighting the flow of time and we begin to walk with it. Think of autumn when the leaves fall without resistance. There is no drama in your fall, just acceptance. They don't try to stay stuck with what they've already accomplished. And however, this detachment is not an end, but a preparation for what will come. It's a gesture, reliable silencer. Likewise, there are times in our lives when we need let go of what is no longer sustainable, not out of weakness, but because continuity demands space. Winter, in turn, is the time when everything seems to fall asleep. But this silence is not absence of life. It's pregnancy. Beneath the hard surface, roots grow stronger. Seeds, they mature in the dark, and the invisible reorganizes itself for the next cycle. Often, we are afraid of this internal winter, afraid of stopping, of slowing down, of listening to what we really feel. But it is in recollection that what was previously hidden reveals itself, mixed with the noise. The pause is an essential part of the movement. Then comes spring. Nothing in it asks for permission to sprout. Life simply overflows. Rebirth is not calculated. It is not planned. It is spontaneous. And that teaches that when we are aligned with our own times, change happens instantly, natural way, effortlessly. The impulse of life is responsible for opening paths that were previously seemed impossible. And then summer arrives, with its fullness and heat. It is the phase of expression, of maturity of that we planted. But even here, where everything seems stable, impermanence continues active, remembering that nothing lasts indefinitely. The heat turns into a breeze, the intensity returns to rest, and the cycle begins again. When we realize this rhythm, we understand that life does not require constancy but tune. It does not require us to be strong all the time, but rather to be flexible. Each the season reveals something about us. What we need to let go, what needs to grow, what demands silence, which calls for expansion. Impermanence is the great teacher. It teaches us that change is not loss, it is passage, and that what is transformed never disappears. It just finds another way of exist. The wind changes, but it remains wind. The water changes, but seawater continues. And when we change, we don't stop being ourselves. We just return to a different version of ourselves. More true, there is a moment, almost always unnoticed, in which we realize that nothing is really happening. Empty. Even the space between two stones seems to hold a soft breath, an echo that mixes with our own silence. The entire nature vibrates like a living body, and every part of it, from the moss that grows in secret to the mountain that watches over the horizon, carries a presence that doesn't need to be explained to be felt. It's as if the world had an invisible pulse, a breath that permeates everything that exists. Imagine walking through a valley at dawn. The fog lies on the ground like a veil light, and the air feels like newborn. There's something there, in the way the light falls on the surfaces, which suggests that reality does not end with what we see. Life seems expand beyond matter, as if a silent spirit animated each form. It is not a distant spirit. It is intimate, close, present in every detail. Water, for example, is never really still. Even when she appears motionless, she stores movement memory. It reflects the sky, the trees, our own face, and yet that way, it doesn't stick to anything. When touching it, we realize that it responds, undulates, welcomes. A water teaches that there is no absolute separation between us and the world. There are just different modes of manifestation of the same vital breath. What she touches, she transforms, not with strength but with presence. The stones, apparently rigid and silent, also carry something similar. They support paths, keep stories, listen to the passing of the seasons without pronouncing word. And yet there is a serenity that emanates from them, as if they were eternal witnesses of everything that is born and everything that perishes. Maybe it's that patience of things that invite us to slow down, to realize that there is a deep wisdom in what is not rushed. The trees, with their roots hidden and their branches given to the sky, reveal another aspect of this invisible presence, the balance between what is hidden and what is offered. They seek light, but they also delve deeper into the dark, and in doing so they remember that every being alive is supported by both height and depth. The spirit that inhabits the things is not only in the brightness, but also in the underground silence. When we walk carefully, we realize that nothing is purely material. The breeze that passes between the leaves sounds like a discreet warning that there is more than we understand. A bird's song seems to open a window inside your chest, her own. The earth, when touched, transmits a heat that does not come from the sun but from the life that lives in it, takes root. Perhaps the whole world is one great natural temple, and every element, wind, water, stone, light, be a small door to the invisible. And when we cross these doors, even if for an instant, something in us returns to the right place, the center where the spirit rests. Natural harmony does not have to live only in the calm moments of nature. She can also inhabit the routine of busy days, the slow traffic, the interrupted conversations, the tiredness that accumulates at the end of the week. We often imagine that serenity belongs to a distant, inaccessible world, reserved only for those who live far from the noise. But the truth is that the silent spirit that inhabits the mountains also inhabits our body, and we can access it even in the midst of concrete situations and emergencies. One of the first practices is the simple act of breathing consciously, not to control breathing, but to perceive it. Inspire as someone who receives the world. Expire like who returns what they no longer need to carry. This pause, even if brief, reorganize the interior. It's like opening a window in a stuffy room. The air changes, and we change along with it. Little by little, this attention becomes a habit, and the body becomes to recognize when you need to return to center. Another way to incorporate harmony is to observe the space around you with slower eyes. It's not about admiring great landscapes. Sometimes, it's enough to notice the movement of the shadow on the wall, the shine of a glass of water, the sound of something moving in the distance. Everyday life contains countless signs of life, but we only hear them when we slow down internally. This change of posture does not change the world, but it changes our relationship with Him. It is also essential to cultivate simplicity in choices. We often suffer because we try to embrace more than we can carry. Harmony is born when we do just what fits in our time, our energy, our truth. This doesn't mean abandon responsibilities, but treat them like a stream treats stones, bypassing, adjusting, flowing without breaking. Every decision taken lightly becomes a step more aligned with the spirit that guides us. A third practice is learning to listen, not as someone waiting for their turn to speak, but as someone who welcomes. When we listen to someone with presence, without rush, the conversation it stops being a dispute and becomes an encounter. The world around us seems calmer because we are calmer. It's amazing how harmony expands when it starts from inside. Finally, there is the practice of gentle detachment, not the sudden, rigid detachment, but the one that it looks like autumn leaves letting go of the branch at the right moment. Detach from one expectation, of a comparison, of an ideal that imprisons us. Every conscious renunciation makes room for something more true, and if this idea resonates with you, it's a sign that something inside already understands the way. Living in harmony is less about winning the day and more about feeling the day. Because when we apply these simple gestures, we realize that the spirit of the world does not. It is outside of us. It reveals itself in the way we walk. When we walk through this inner territory, we realize that harmony is not a target distant, but a state that arises when we stop fighting the flow of the world. No is a technique, not a secret reserved for a few. It is just the reminder that we belong to the same force that moves the clouds, that guides the rivers, that awakens the light in the morning. Nature never forgets its own essence. We are the ones who, at some times, we move away from it, and yet, a moment of silence is enough to find the path again. A gesture simple, a thought that disappears, a deeper breath. Everything that what we learn here is not something to be memorized, but something to be lived. The purity that clears the interior, the flexibility that keeps us whole in the face of changes, the presence that turns every day into an opportunity to return. Natural harmony doesn't require you to abandon the modern world. It just invites so that you may be in it with a less hardened heart, closer to what beats silently beneath it all. When you walk with this awareness, until the day more common becomes a fertile field of revelations, a simple sound can calm you down. One break can heal. A choice made lightly can change an entire destiny. And if something has touched your spirit so far, then you have already started this journey. Just continue. Just allow the world to guide you as gently as the wind guides the direction of the leaves. Harmony is always there, just waiting for you to recognize it. Sign up and continue walking with us along the path of the soul. There is much more to be discovered when we allow life to speak at its own pace, without rushing, no noise, no resistance. And before we close, I leave you with a question that may accompany you for the next few days. A question that requires no answer, just presence. What if what we call destiny is just the whisper of the kami who give us, have they been with you since birth?